Now I'm going to show you how to do an ABO-Rh test procedure. Put your patient sample right here, and the next step is to label your tubes. And make sure you label them as outlined in your laboratory manual. We're going to label these with the initials of the patient. For confidentiality, we'll just make up some initials for this today. So we're going to use the initials for Adam Sandler. And so we're always going to put the first initial last, the last initial of the last name goes first. So we're going to put SA and then a capital A for the forward typing, B, and then one for the AB, D, the D control, and then we're going to put the initials in lowercase for the reverse typing. So lowercase a, lowercase b. And we're going to label a tube for the 3% suspension. The 3% suspension can be anywhere between a 2 or 4% suspension, but for ease of labeling we call it a 3%. For this particular procedure, a 2% suspension works best. Some of the other procedures need closer to a 4% suspension. Then after you have labeled your tubes, place the tubes in the rack like this. You're going to put the forward typing tubes in this row like this. The reverse in this row here. And the 3% suspension tube right here. And after you've labeled your tubes, we'll add the reagents to the forward tubes here. So you pick up your vial of anti-A, and you'll add that to the tube labeled A. Mix your reagents. And then you want to ground your hands and your tubes, otherwise the static charge will wick a partial drop off and you won't get the right amount. So you want to lay your hands on the counter like this and then touch the tube with your opposite hand like that, and then the drop will go right down to the bottom of the tube. Then take your anti-B and place it in your B tube. As you add each reagent, make sure that you come around the side like this. Don't go over another tube. This Anacera is so strong that even a small little flick in the wrong tube will throw off your results. Take your anti-AB and place it in the capital AB tube. Take the anti-D Anacera and place it in the tube labeled the capital D. And your control, and place it in the D control. After adding the commercial Anacera, we'll add 2 drops of patient's plasma to the reverse tubes right here. The blood blot, take the cap off the plasma tube, and with a transfer pipette, we're going to add 2 drops of patient plasma. You want to check and make sure if you have any fibrin down at the bottom of the tube, make sure you don't get that into your pipette. So we're going to go down, squeeze the bulb, down with your pipette, bring it up, avoiding that fibrin. Put your tube back here, and then you're going to ground your tube and drop drop 2 drops of plasma into the first tube and the second tube. The remainder you can put back into the tube there. Now you can put the cap back on the tube, and we'll remove the cap from the cells. It's a blood block. We're going to add 1 drop of packed cells to this tube labeled for the 3% suspension. So go down and grab some. They're pretty thick and gummy. And so we're going to add a drop to there. Put the excess back into the tube. Cap the tube. Now I'll show you how to prepare a 3% suspension. I'm going to add the saline to the cells. And with 1 drop of packed cells, you're going to add about this much saline to start. And then we're going to rinse out what's left in our pipette into the saline. You don't want to bubble into the saline. Just draw it up, squirt it out, draw it up, squirt it out like that. And then bring it up in your pipette and you can check. Now this is still a little too heavy, and you can see there's a little fibrin in there. So we want to add a little bit more saline. Okay. Then mix. And then look at the suspension in the pipette. And this looks like very close to 3%. And you can double check your suspensions with a commercial suspension. So we'll mix our A and B cells here. Okay, now you can see that the cells are off the bottom of the tube, of the vials here. And we're going to compare our suspension in the pipette for our patient with the suspension from our commercial cells. And you can see that this one's just a little, the patient is just a little bit lighter than the commercial suspension, so that's perfect. We want it a little bit lighter. We want it closer to a 2% for the ABO-Rh. We'd want it a little darker, a little heavier suspension for other tests. Add 1 drop of patient cell suspension to each of your forward tubes. Then after adding cells to your forward, we're going to add reagent cells, A and B cells, to the reverse tubes. So we're going to add A1 cells to the A tube. I'm going to add B cells to the reverse B tube. Now we're ready to spin down the tubes in the centrifuge. First you need to mix your tubes. You can just shake your rack like this. Then I'm going to show you how to balance an odd number of tubes in the centrifuge. Make sure that if you're doing labs on campus that you check with your lab instructor before using this method. To balance an odd number of tubes, you'll take the first 3, and I mix again, and you're going to make an equilateral triangle with those first 3 tubes, just like that. The remaining tubes you pick up 2 at a time, mix, and make sure that you balance them across from each other. And close the lid of the centrifuge. And if your centrifuge isn't already on, you'll turn it on with the power button. Make sure this is high. We're going to spin them down for 30 seconds. So you'll push clear, 30, and enter. And then you'll press the start button right here. The centrifuge will make a soft beep when it stops and it's safe to open the lid.